This video contains spoilers for the entirety of Attack on Titan. Be warned. I was there when Attack on Titan was first released in 2013. The anime really caught everyone's attention that season, mainly because of its premise, which was something new yet different at the same time. The anime had a constant mix of horror, action and comedy. The Titans were both terrifying to watch and sometimes funny in certain moments. Even today there are memes of Titans running or their faces that you can see. The anime truly brought something new and different, however the first season wasn't as good as we remember it to be. The anime had constant consistency issues, it promised too much, and it was common to see these types of anime not deliver as much as it was expected. Especially because the latter half wasn't as good as the first. The first 5, maybe 10 or 12 episodes were truly fantastic, but the 12 last ones weren't. The anime kept telling us that all the mysteries would be resolved by entering that basement in Aaron's house, but we had that battle with the female titan and now there are titans within the walls and more questions keep arising. It seemed like the answers we would have wouldn't be provided. The first season of Attack on Titan was as good as it should have been. It wasn't amazing, at least not on its own. Looking at it from the current perspective, I can see how it really gives us hints and constant foreshadowing of what was to come, and it laid a solid foundation for everything that was yet to happen. However, it would have taken a bit of time. And when I mean time, I meant that I spent 3 years of my high school years without Attack on Titan. Well, maybe I watched that OVA, but those were 3 years during which I heard from manga readers that the story was amazing and that there wouldn't be a second season, and I should read the manga. I didn't pay much attention to it, I didn't like it as much as the others, and there were another anime to watch. Attack on Titan seemed to be more about promises, and it might not deliver what it was promised. However, at the beginning of my first year of college, if I remember correctly, it was April 2017, the second season of Attack on Titan began airing with only 12 episodes, unlike the first season with 25. I think it was here that I and many others who had watched the first season started to realize how amazing this series was. The second season didn't focus as much on action, at least not in the first 6 episodes. It was more about suspense and building up to the big moments. Little by little, we started to understand better if Honey was a traitor and if there were others with her. Maybe the Colossal Titan and the Armored Titan were someone, and perhaps those people were still on the island and could be any one of us. The Titans we knew, the ones that devoured humans, we know that Aaron transforms into one, and are the others that are roaming around maybe other people? By the way, Connie seeing a Titan that looks like his mother trapped in that house still hurts to remember it. What I mean is that the world started to make more sense. Things started to connect, they weren't just loose ends, but everything was finally coming together. And no one really expected that the world building Attack on Titan would be this good. Finally, we reached episode 6, Warrior. This is my favorite episode of Attack on Titan. Even though it doesn't have a direct fight, this episode describes very well what the show is about. It's a constant suspense and mystery, only to show you an incredible revelation that leaves you with many questions but also answers. The revelation that Reiner and Berthold brought was not only fantastic visually but in terms of storytelling, or rather, the series concept, it was interesting. These moments show us that Attack on Titan wasn't just empty promises, it was really delivering something, and oh my, how naive we were. Don't think it ended with episode 6, the following episodes were just as good if not better. We could see Reiner's duality, which made him my favorite character in their series. He genuinely enjoyed spending moments with all the other ones in that island, and at the same time, he felt tied to the mission given to him by Marley. This constant conflict between his personalities was something I found impressive for someone we thought it was an antagonist in the story. Berthold is a very good supporting character. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I liked how he evolved through the series, and we can see how he reached his peak in the 3rd season. Let me say, Appleseed is an amazing song and that transformation was wonderful. I'll talk more about it in the third season part. But my point is that the second season of Attack on Titan was very good. It did what the first season failed to do, which was to provide answers and progress. But it didn't clarify everything. It made many of us who watched the first season, like me, check out the second season and be amazed at how good this world really is and how much more of it can offer. Attack on Titan wasn't just some empty promises. It really seemed to be delivering something better. And it was probably building up to something very good. And if you know the third season, you already know what I'm going to say. The third season of Attack on Titan is a bit different from the others. This time the problem isn't the Titans themselves, but other humans. We begin to understand that there are many others who want the current system within the three walls to continue. And Reiner and Bertold are not just simple villains in the series. There are those inside the walls who want humanity to remain trapped the way it is, and things are not as simple as we have to kill the Titans, as Eren says in the first episode. By the way, of all the seasons, this is probably the most annoying version of Eren. He is truly insufferable during this part. I understand why many people don't like the first part of the third season of Attack on Titan. The series took a different direction, focusing more on politics, questioning and dialogue. However, seeing how Erwin, Levi and the entire Recon Corps deal with the challenges of breaking the current system is great. Not just them, but also how Historia became a protagonist in this part of the season and go against her father's legacy based on what she learned from Ymir. It was also good to see a battle with the largest titan in the series so far, to conclude this part. Meanwhile, Reiner, Bertold and Zeke, the Beast Titan we saw in the second season, prepare to capture Eren and the Coordinate, but we'll see more about that in part 2. The second part of the third season of Attack on Titan was the peak of the series in my opinion. Even though I liked the second season more, I have to admit that this was probably the most important point in this series, not only because of the battles, but mainly because we had the big revelation of what's beneath that basement that we heard from the first season. The wait I had for this moment for 6 years was truly worth it. The final episodes of the third season of Attack on Titan are generally jaw-dropping. It was probably one of the best revelations I've ever seen in anime. Everything suddenly made so much sense. And the Owl, Eren Kruger, became a great character even though he appeared for only 2 episodes. But I also need to talk about how great the fight was. From the beginning of seeing how Armin prepares to confront Reiner, to how they ended up being cornered by Zeke, but also how Bertold had his moment and that transformation of his, it was probably the best of all. When he realizes that Armin is trying to buy time just as he tries to buy time for Reiner, to see him rise and accept his fate, which makes his death even sadder when he calls the names of Vani and his friend. This is cinema. But of course, I can't talk about this season without mentioning Eren. I never expected Hajime Isayama to have the courage to kill off a character like Eren. We saw him kill off other characters in previous seasons, but nothing like this. The battle between Levi and the Beast Titan is impeccable. From seeing all the last members of the Recon Corps marching towards the Beast Titan and being constantly bombarded with rocks, with cannonball-like impacts. Finally, when the dust settles, we have this incredible scene. The use of the soundtrack Two Lives was truly excellent here. The music conveys the sense of a meaningless fight and the sadness, only for it to be followed with a sudden return of glory and a despairing chorus when we see Zeke flee and Levi fails in his last order left by Erwin. The third season of Attack on Titan is the pinnacle of the series in my opinion. But it's not over yet, and it was announced shortly after that we would have the fourth season with the title Attack on Titan Final Season. Attack on Titan Final Season Part 1 is excellent. In a way, it mirrors the first season in many ways, with many of the same things happening again. But now we are in Marley. We now understand why Reiner, Annie and Bertold ended up on that island, how Marley's system works and their constant hatred for Eldians due to what the Falling Titan Ymir did. With Eren's appearance and the attack on Marley by the people from Paradise Islands, along with Aaron's plan to exterminate all Eldians. It's interesting to see how Reiner constantly battles PTSD from his time on the island and how it has affected him. Regret and guilt consume him, and he can no longer differentiate between being a soldier of Marley and an Eldian from Paradise. This messes with him enough to the point where he contemplates suicide. It's also interesting to see how the childhood of those who lived there and the children who were trained to become the Titans were kinda sad. In particular, Reiner's mother saw him and just as a soldier candidate because of his father that was from Marley, and gaining recognition from the city would mean that she could be with him. This becomes more apparent when we realize that he began to fail in his mission on the island when Marcel died, and this constant pressure may have been the start of his mental issues. Now in Marley, although we have some episodes of peace, it doesn't last long, as Falco and Gabi, our two new characters for this season, become the next candidates for inheriting the Titan powers. Falco calls Reiner to talk to someone who wants to speak with him in a basement, and we see Eren and Reiner having a conversation in one of the tensest episodes of Attack on Titan. The attack on Marley was great, showing how powerful Eren has become, yet balanced because he's not invincible. The Recon Corps is also quite competent and even with drastically reduced numbers. But I really like their objective on the island, which is to rescue the missing Eren. We start to see how he has changed since the end of the third season, and how he is becoming the series villain. Overall, this first part of the attack on Marley was a great start. My biggest problem is that this season was called the final season. It premiered in November 2020, and if you probably noticed, we are in the November of 2023 when the anime actually ended. I think this was a mistake. The fourth season should have been called the fourth season and not the final season. This made it seem like the end was much closer than we thought, when in reality it would take another 3 years to see the conclusion of the story. In the second part of the final season, things become more intense, and I honestly can't say whether it's for the better or the worse. On one hand, this is the worst version of Eren. He's arrogant, depressed and annoying. On the other hand, we got more answers about the world of Attack on Titan. We come to understand how the coordinate powers work, the mission to bring Eren and Zeke together to activate this power, and the great plan to euthanize all Eldians, to end the Titans. We see Levi being the legend he is, giving everything to capture Zeke again, leaving Zeke with no choice to do a suicidal move, and explodes both of them. But both of them survive. Well, Levi almost dies, but you know. We also learn about the origin of the fighting Titan, Ymir, which is cruel but helps us understand the hatred of Marley and all the other people outside the islands towards Paradise. We also have another battle between Eren and Reiner to finally put an end to things. But the best part is not the battle itself. As with the third season, the constant revelations are the highlight. Zeke shows Eren the memories of his father, Grisha, and we learn that Eren was the one who pushed Grisha to steal the coordinate. Not only that, but he didn't want everyone to kill each other. He wanted to start the rumbling and kill everyone around the island with the help of the Thousand Titan Ymir. This was a major moment and it's not over yet, as the final season will have a part 3, which is split into 2 1-hour specials released 7 months apart. As I mentioned, things were extended unnecessarily in my opinion. And finally, here we are, the final chapters. In the first part there isn't too much to say. I was deeply saddened by Hanja's death and their quest to obtain the plane to reach Eren. As for the second episode, which was the last one, I liked the ending of Attack on Titan. Probably not much, but to be honest, I still really enjoyed the series. The entire ending isn't bad. The animation in these last 2 episodes is magnificent, filled with incredible sequences, especially the one involving Levi and Mikasa. The music was also good. I liked the choice of some moments, but I'll be picky and say they didn't use Vogel ein Kaffee, a birding cage in English, sorry, I don't know German, which is the most iconic soundtrack of the series in my opinion. However, the big question is, what do I think of the major revelation that Eren was actually doing this as a martyr, wanting his comrades to be seen as heroes and that he actually wanted to be with them, to live the remainder of his life free and happy, and that he had no choice but to do what the future, present and past predetermined destiny for him, including leaving his mother to die in a way. I found it quite inconsistent for his character, especially when we had great revelations in previous seasons, and Aaron from the beginning of the final season seemed to be someone with regrets about killing people from Marley and outside the island, but willing to do it anyway. His initial goal of killing all of them, just as in the first episode of the anime, took precedence. He was the perfect case of living enough to see yourself become the villain, but that's not the case apparently. He killed 80% of humanity thinking of his comrades, and there was no other way. So yeah, I find it inconsistent. But the episode wasn't just bad in terms of the story concept, it had some great moments. I liked the touching scenes of Annie reuniting with her father, especially because he always believed she was alive all this time. Reiner's mother saying she was happy to see her son, even though Reiner said he was no longer a Titan. Armin and Zeke coming to an understanding of each other, and Mikasa and Eren kiss, which was simultaneously beautiful and sad. I even liked some of Eren's words. He genuinely wanted to see Mikasa happy, and after he died, he wanted her to forget about him and throw away the scarf, but she didn't. She gave him a proper burial, visited him, and always kept the scarf with her until the final moments. That was genuinely beautiful. I can see how great ending was envisioned here, but I believe it wasn't written in the best way. But that's just my opinion. Now the question that truly matters: how much does this ending impact the series? I'd say not much. The biggest revelations were made in the previous seasons, and the world building is still amazing. Apart from the insufferable protagonists, the characters are still interesting. Attack on Titan had 4 excellent seasons that make it a great recommendation for anyone looking to start watching anime, and for that I'm grateful to everyone involved, including the manga's author Isayama, Wheat and Mappa Studios for the great adaptation, Hiroyuki Sawano for the fantastic music. So even though the conclusion wasn't great and the message wasn't effectively conveyed, I'll say the cheesy line that the journey was worth it, and I'll fondly remember these past 10 years I spent watching Attack on Titan.